This podcast is sponsored by eBay Canada. eBay Canada has been supporting Canadian small business retailers for 25 years. With their up and running program, you can access eBay's 180 plus million buyers in 190 countries around the world. With up and running, there are no listing fees on up to 200 listings per month, and you only pay fees when you sell. As part of the eBay community, you get real-time advice and inspiration and access to powerful selling tools and insights. Go to ebay.ca/up and running, stay local, and sell global.
Welcome to Canada's podcast, the number one podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. So, Mark, welcome to Canada's podcast. It's great to see you. As I normally do, and it's always really interesting to tell us, give us that 3 to 5 minute history of who Mark is, and and what you're doing today, basically, and then we'll move into some of the other questions.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Phil. Pleasure to be here on a fine Friday fall morning. So it's
it's lovely outside. Yeah.
It is. I love fall. I'm originally born and raised in cottage country on a lake up north in Halliburton. So this is one of our favorite times of year.
Well, I'm born and raised in Scotland, so this is like summertime. So that's fun.
Having lived there once upon a time, I remember the parks would be 17 degrees and sunny, and you'd have everyone having the little barbecues and shirts off in the parks there. So
yeah, right, exactly. Anyway, come on, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Yeah, so so I've been a passionate around as far as innovating strategy and distribution when it comes to all things financial services my entire career for the last 20 years, since leaving business school in 1999. And in early days in my youth, I was a young front office banker building out distribution for a company that was called ING Direct, now Tangerine, and that exposed me to the broader ecosystem when it came to all things fintech and financial services. And that was actually before fintech was even coined fintech. But that's where I really grew my passion for, innovating platforms, product, distribution strategy that was focused on customers. And since then, I've, crossed over and worked at big carriers and then in the property casualty space, developing, distribution product, et cetera. And then I was able to basically connect and meet with, my leadership team at Foxquilt while we were growing and scaling out maybe our most proud Canadian fintech growth story, a company called Real Matters. It's based out here in Toronto from about 2011 toward an IPO in 2017. And what I was responsible for the insurance vertical within that organization.
Okay.
And what we were able to bear witness to was basically the first, generation, that first wave of insurtechs globally, which primarily focused on digitization of insurance, top line plays, shiny objects around narrow focus around programs, et cetera. And usually based on, digitization of online, richer user experience, UX, et cetera, usually founded by other technology founders that had strong exits in other realms that were learning insurance on the go. So, and we watched that first wave, and our team had its own problem within our tech company, within the platform that hosted like in kind small businesses, about 200,000 across North America. And the last piece of their onboarding was showcasing their insurance and having a fully right policy that met our requirements. But they never ever did. And so they'd have to walk back to a legacy broker network. And if we saw them at all, it'd be a couple months later. So it was a real challenging problem, our onboarding process. So we called out to the marketplace to solve the problem and asked them simply, can you not integrate insurance to our platform? And more importantly, customize and cascade a powerful affinity offering to our like and kind network. A very big multi-million-dollar opportunity. But we never got a response back. And I wasn't naive to that. I didn't expect to have a response back from these big alpha houses or carriers in the marketplace. So that was the light bulb moment when my partner and I say, hey, why cannot we basically go build the architecture and technology to adjoin like and kind small business owners and put them in front with purchasing power at every pillar of the life cycle of their policy. That was the bottom line underlying premise. So we knew that we'd have roadblocks and barriers and challenges, founding the company here in Toronto, Canada, because you got to go about a little bit longer to do your alphas and betas and have that measured success story on your way to basically raising capital, whilst you're focused on building your architecture and attracting talent to align to your vision and business model.
Mm-hmm. You've had a busy few years, but I mean, I looked at your background. Why didn't you do it? Within, Tangerine or Aviva, or you've worked for some great companies. Why do it on your own? Why become an entrepreneur? Why take that risk? Because it's there.
Yeah, that's always should be the first question. Like, that should offer a curiosity. Why do people become entrepreneurs? More specifically, why did I?
Yeah.
So, I have to applaud all the great leaders that I worked with and for. They gave me the education, the know-how, and the relationships to found this company, Foxquilt. Without some of those mentors, Foxquilt doesn't exist. But my passion for entrepreneurship started at a very, very young age. I was born into a family of entrepreneurs. My great grandfather and my grandfather, built and founded what would become the largest subterranean diamond drilling contracting company in Canada, and then
wow.
an offshoot of a conglomerate of manufacturing and distribution companies and others. And so that family brand still exists under Morissette Diamond Drilling. But I learned business and entrepreneurship and the values of basically how it starts and ends with people, how to treat them with values of integrity, respect, curiosity, every morning at the breakfast table and the dinner table. And what I was always taught was basically go pursue what you're passionate about. And when you have that passion and you've got a great idea or vision, then essentially build a team around it that can align to that common purpose and vision. Now, I thought that I would be able to start this entrepreneur. I look a lot younger than I am. I'm a middle-aged guy with 4 kids. So this journey I would have loved to have started when I was 25. But it's about timing and an idea and having people around you to basically grow and align to your vision, but grow the business. I started my first company, ironically, when I was in business school, when I was 21.
Oh, wow.
My partner and I, within that business, we basically subcontracted CN rail cars and we're shipping vehicles across North America together. He was, I had a small minority share in that company.
Yeah.
And I had about 2 years left of business school. So I sold my shares thinking, hey, you know what, I'm going to go basically do this all on my own right eventually when I have my own passion for what I want to do.
Yeah.
My buddy since then has become a multi-million-dollar logistics entrepreneur. So I missed that. So you should have piggybacked him all the way. But with the naivety, because you're young and full of vinegar, is that you think like 5 years later, you're going to find that basic purpose. And sometimes it comes a little later. And then you're anchored into, you talk about risk, you're anchored into mortgage, cottage, family. Then it becomes a little bit harder to assume that.
It is tough once you get into that sort of thing. Yeah, I agree.
Because you've got to be. This is not something where it's these businesses are not something that you can basically sit on a side hustle or do on the side. You've got to be all in and fully committed. And then everyone around you, my wife and my extended family, they've known since I was a teenager that I've wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's always been one of my purposes as far as I love business. I love the people around ensuring a successful business and growth story. And it's all about leadership and assembling all those different stakeholders and people. So this is probably, we're having the most fun. My partner, Krim Jamal, and I are having so much fun right now. We're going to year 5 of this business, Foxquilt, but
that's a good year to be talking about. If you're still talking about it year 5, I think that's a good sign, basically. Well, for you, I mean, you brought up your family when you were working. I mean, for you, you explained a little bit, but I just want to kind of just focus on it. For you, what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur versus being, a successful, employee, basically?
Yeah, so I always start and end with people. When you're attracting talent, and you get basically now to forge the blueprint of all your intellectual capital to say, okay, this is the vision. And I'm more of the longer term vision guy. I like to paint and create that blueprint of where I think the customer and the market is going. And then allowing you to basically paint that canvas of creating the architecture, but more importantly, the people around it that are going to be focused on basically painting that canvas and bringing them together at the start of the journey, but allowing and affording this living, breathing culture to have its genesis from day one. And so I've been good fortune. I've worked at some prolific companies under some great leaders, and you get to learn and you get to basically steal and poach what you think are the best practices from those various cultures and what you believe wholeheartedly should be ingrained in what you're creating and within your baby. Should be the impetus of that living, breathing culture that you want your people to foster. So Krim and I, we're capitalists at the end of the day, and we have big ambitions to create not just $100 million company, but $1 billion company that's trading in global markets. We want to have a large return for our shareholders. But we want to basically celebrate, those young people that are affording us to build this company and the journey, really teach and enlighten and educate and make a difference in their careers. And then at the end of the day, surprise them with stock options that are going to basically, pay for a good chunk of their mortgage or change their families differently. We want them to basically wake up in the morning and leave work at the end of the day thinking, this is the best place I've ever worked. So it's really I get passionate when I think about the people and the culture.
So, we were talking a little earlier, and I was sort of saying that, I interviewed, Danish and Andrew, a couple of other fintech guys. What do you think is the future of, let's just stick with the insurance fintech side of it because it's a big category. What's the future? What's the global vision, if you like, or at least the Canadian vision of the insurance fintech side of it that you're the third that you guys are pushing out there, kind of thing?
Yeah, we love our peer group. We're close in touch and could become good friends. Donish and Zen Insurance. I was on a panel with the Policy Me Fellows as well. So it's we celebrate and have a lot of pride in their success because with their success comes our success.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So it's a great fraternity. Canada, I'm proud Canadian, born and raised, but Canada, we suffer sometimes from our own basically systemic cultural. We're proud to be Canadian, which means we're usually a bit more conservative. But Canada is, as I say to some of our biggest stakeholders are outside of our borders in Canada. We are a dynamic trading place and marketplace. We're the 10th largest GDP in the world, but more importantly, we have an amazing people, rich academia and capabilities. Right here in our hometown of Toronto, Waterloo, is a vibrant ecosystem.
Absolutely is, yeah.
Data scientists and engineers and developers and strategists and marketers. And, the rest of the world has figured that out. And we've taken great pride from the company that we just, came from that IPO'd in 2017. Doesn't just happen by mistake. That was basically built and scaled by Canadians. So Canadians build dynamic platforms, trading platforms and technology. And then we embrace other international stakeholders to help us basically scale those offerings. What's happening is that it's up to leaders like, myself and Donish and others to open up, our people and our culture and our marketplace to the rest of the world and basically say like, hey, it's not about the old way where we're basically going to, use foreign money to scale this growth and business model and then basically, exit to a foreign entity. It doesn't always have to be that way. Why can we be leaders? Why can't we be number one?
This podcast is sponsored by eBay Canada. eBay Canada is powering Canadian small businesses. Go to ebay.ca/up and running to open your new global e-commerce business.
In our vision,
it does happen way too much in the Canadian raise is so hard compared to the international raise kind of thing.
Absolutely. And when we, our team, looked at the first wave of InsurTech, 2010 to 17, that's what we said. We said, most of these, basically, the innovation is lacking and underserves basically the customer first, as far as ingenuity and engineering product and solutions for customer. More importantly, the full end-to-end full service underwriting platform wasn't there. It was mostly top line customer acquisition models that were done by, technology founders that had strong tethers and relationships to capital, that had strong exits in other realms. And that's where we said in 2016, we said, okay, it is now time for Canadian insurance technology innovators to get in the game and not just focus on shiny, narrow program objects that venture capital was following, but basically entrust our own instincts to focus on models around profitability, but architecture that was focused on profitability. So with our own self-funding and a little bit of venture capital, we focused on the back-end architecture and the machine that would become a full service, eventually modern carrier when we garnered support with some international stakeholders. So what we had to do was basically, you got to get out of your comfort zone in your own bubble, and you go get it. You don't wait for the phone to ring or the door to be knocked on. And we left very, very early in the ideation stage in 2016, and we courted the big reinsurance companies. And we just said, hey, this is the Toronto leadership team. This is our vision. And we're focused on building a full stack underwriting platform that's going to essentially create a back-end machine and focused on the same architecture, on microservices architecture that e-commerce retailers like Walmart's and others are building. And we're going to build a distribution company that's focused customer first, so that they're empowered with when it comes to term, treaty, product, tailor-made offerings. They're in front of it first, and allow the machine to basically pre-underwrite and score, then offer those benefits, an extension of self-service features to the customers. So it's a little bit harder, obviously, to do that in Toronto, Canada, because it takes capital. And it takes probably twice as long, because everything's based on conservative measured success. But we take a different vantage points in the sense that we are aggressive and ambitious, and we do not wait for anything.
So we're faced with challenges every day as entrepreneurs, and I'm more interested in when you're faced with those challenges, especially the ones that you didn't see coming. Okay, how do you typically handle them? Have you kind of developed a methodology around them, or is it like holy shit each time? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm not a patient guy by nature. Let's unpeel that a bit. So I grew up in a very competitive sports household.
Okay.
I've got a twin brother and 3 brothers, and I moved away from home at a young age to pursue hockey. I was 15 years old, but we pursue excellence in everything we did in that household. So whether it's and you're always curious whether my brother and I played the baritone in the concert band, and then we acted in plays and drama. We're curious. Always looking to seek new relationships, but we always wanted to win. So there's nothing wrong in Canada by teaching young Canadians that, hey, you want to celebrate this new culture that basically rewards, and there's a sense of within that culture of kindness, fairness, equity, all that good, rich stuff holistically within your culture, while you're innovating with curiosity and other successful values to innovate. But you need to win. You've got to strive for first place and excellence. And when you have those natural instincts within your bones, in Canada, you have to learn to be a bit patient. So you come across all these barriers and roadblocks within insurtech in Canada because coast to coast, most of our property casualty industry is made up of carriers that are satellites that pay a dividend to a foreign parent.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are really anchored in, slow moving cruise ships that are retiring legacy systems focused on retaining market share.
Mm-hmm.
And the decision makers aren't here. So they're not really coming through our office trying to figure out what the hell these guys are doing. It's been 4 years. And they put up a lot of rare barriers and roadblocks because they don't open up their businesses to let you afford to innovate. And so we couldn't wait for that, right? So we couldn't wait for that. So we had to go elsewhere outside of our borders, not be naive, to look for those different partners that were going to allow us to basically have capacity, underwriting authority, baking in dynamic, sophisticated data sciences within our platform as around underwriting logic.
So what you're saying to me, I think, is when faced with unexpected challenges, successful entrepreneurs handle them with innovation. Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you were focusing on the business, which I understood because that's your granular thing. But I mean, if I can sort of.
Yes, I'm glad we can kind of stop and pause here for a moment because it's true. When the best things can ever happen to an entrepreneur are the most frustrating barriers or blocks, because that allows your smarter, intelligent team to sit down and focus on solution. So, some of those solutions are obviously the business, whether it be technology, but just as important as the customer. Think about it. Insurance has always been the lagging financial instrument when it comes to fintech and financial services for lots of different reasons that would take us a few podcasts to discuss over.
Well, like I said, I grew up in a banking and insurance city, so yeah, I know what you're saying.
Before the liquidity crisis, they prided themselves in not investing in their capabilities. So, meaning technology and people and everything else. So they've been playing catch up. So what happens is that, we listened to the customer first 4 years ago, and, that frustration within the broader customer going, why are these carriers dictating terms and product towards us? And it's not transparent. I don't know what I'm paying for. And so we listen to the customer, say, okay, well, we're going to help you innovate solutions to fix that frustration. We want that small business owner to access product 24/7 within an omni-channel. But more importantly, we don't want a one-size-fits-all product for you. We'll build tailor-made offerings for you. So the obstacles and problems that you faced, as frustrating as they are, and they're harder to solve here in Canada still, because we don't have a lot of power and authority as startups.
Yeah.
They are probably the best enlightening moments to basically figure out a solution within your value chain.
Okay. So in terms of the challenge side of it, this is my favorite question because I love the answers. They've been so great. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? You said you had some great mentors through your career. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received that you keep using, that you keep falling back on, kind of thing?
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to get tired of me saying the word people, but I reiterate and regurgitate the best advice I've ever had from my big Fortune 500 mentors or my family of entrepreneurs, etc. is surround yourself with basically a diversity of different people. Do not have this monoline of like and kind people, but surround yourself with as many network of different people that embrace your curiosity for asking questions, for learning, for always keeping an open mind, age of reason, critical thinking. It's not to get into politics, and you see this kind of isolationism set in the rest of the global framework, but that dogma doesn't do good for anybody. So you've got to reach out and extend yourself and your curiosity and your way of thinking to as many different people as possible, because you never know within your own life's journey or your business journey or whatever journey that it's on, that different people can really be of service, but more importantly, where you can be of service to them as well.
Okay.
And, when we're building this company, back to the business, it really, really, it's not cliche. It's not, it's about people. And when you're attracting top talent early days, when you don't have a lot of money, you've got to attract the best in class folks to build your technology, to build out your distribution ops. And how you do that, it starts early.
It's a tough road.
Nothing can be reactionary here in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah.
You've got to start those courtships 2 years in advance and say, hey,
Yeah.
I know that you're the top salesperson, young person, girl or guy at that company, but watch what we're doing. Watch what we're doing over the course of the next 12 months, because I'm going to come back to you in 14 months and you're going to come and join our cause. And then when the people join us, it's just like a water tap that turns on. It starts as a drip, and then the flow gets a little bit heavier because they invite other rich talent to join the mission.
So let's move on to my rapid fire section of questions, just
Sure.
quick Q&As kind of thing. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing instead?
Oh, that is a great question. So you always have to have a dream, right? So
Absolutely.
when I was young, my brothers and I, we dreamt, and we put in more than 10,000 hours. So we put in 20,000 hours to be professional hockey players. That dream did not realize, and I extinguished it as early as I possibly could. So that you're not basically, crying in your hands at 18.
Right.
Move on and create a new dream.
Yeah.
When we look for talent, we look for curiosity and what's your dream in 5 years. We don't want just folks to join us basically to punch in, punch out, and we want to actually help their dreams come true.
But what's your dream? What would you do?
Yeah, so altruistically, this business is going to be fine, right? And if I wasn't building Foxquilt, it would be helping others. And I've got a competitive sense of nature. I need to be busy and all that stuff. I can't be going back to cottage country where we're raised on a lake and put my feet up. That's not my dream. But when this is not, we have no grandiose dreams to basically be in this for 15 years toward an IPO and other. That's not satisfying ego. Mm-hmm. There'll be a time and place to basically create a new dream. Mm-hmm. And that's basically, we want to help broaden altruistically the fintech ecosystem, where we can open up some of our companies to different global trading partners. Okay. My wife and I, she's a business executive as well. So I think that we're already starting plans on how we can use our abilities and skills to help the next basically wave of entrepreneurs after this is said and done.
So moving, what books are you reading, listening to, whichever?
I'd be a teacher if I wasn't basically.
Teacher. Okay. All right. That's a good thing to be. That's a good thing to be. So what are you reading at the moment?
Well, I'm reading. So I always have entrepreneurial stories that we read at the bedside table. Mm-hmm. And so, some of that stuff is traditional stuff like the, Shoe Dog and the Nike story and mm-hmm. Jeff Bezos' book. But I'm on this kick of basically theology as well. So it's like you come to a sense in your life where you're looking for something always more meaningful. And so I've been digging a little deeper into spirituality and theology. So some of those books and podcasts.
Did you read The Big Nine yet with Amy Webb?
No. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. You got to go read it. Okay, it's very interesting. I mean, you might disagree or agree with it, but it's very interesting. She's a pretty good futurist and a good writer. So it's and you're in the tech business, and I grew up in the tech business. So it's I like people with vision that sort of saying what's going to happen. So it's interesting,
Yeah, I think I'm a very open-minded guy, but always, I've been fortunate and blessed to have a beautiful wife that's a deep thinker as well.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested
same
in.
here. Makes a big diff. Yeah.
It does, and so you always want to be ahead of your life. You don't want your life to be dragging you forward. And I think there's a real, when you look at the millennials and the Gen Zs, and I've got 4 children, and my youngest children, those to follow, there's a real sense of purpose for entrepreneurs that are visionaries to now bridge what those new cultures and those businesses were going to look like in 10 or 15 years. And the baby boomers that were very successful and those that are successful today, different cultures. When we talk about Jeff Bezos' culture, when we talk about Apple and some others, Tesla, these are heavily driven cultures that not necessarily resonate with Gen Zs and those to follow. So I think there's a better way to allow young people to innovate and be those entrepreneurs within your company that fosters a culture of balance.
Totally agree.
So
even though I'm a boomer.
yeah.
No, yeah. Are you a morning or a night person?
Well, I'm a morning person.
You belong to the 80% of the entrepreneurs I interview. I think 80% of us are can't, have to get up. You know what I mean? The brain starts going off at 4:30. I've got to get up.
It is, if I was a writer, I'd probably be like waking up in the middle of the night to jot down my best notes. But I'm one of those guys. I need an adrenaline rush the first thing in the morning. I want to get up at 5 or 6, and then do my best. The guys around me know that I can't sit still for 10 minutes. So I do my best thinking between 7 and 11.
Yeah.
And then after that, my brain's not that great.
I totally agree. That's right. What's keeping you up at night these days?
Most people respond obviously to the climate and the environment that we see ourselves in. Obviously, I've got a family of 4 young kids. You always are thinking like how to protect children to not to insulate basically them from this pandemic that we're in. So you want to have them flourish, not be in a sense of fear or paralysis while they're not able to pursue their normal patterns around sports activities or dance, whatever that is. So I think about, and I'm conscious to be a good dad. So I want to be be there for my kids, family first, and then for the young people that are building our company. That's who I think about first. I think about the young people that are building the company. It's about them and what they're going through. You have to think like these folks are in condos or they're in basement apartments. You don't know what type of mental anxiety or anguish that they're feeling right now. So we are, as a team and as myself personally leading the team, thinking about how do we best keep them safe but mentally healthy through this next 2 years, because it's gonna take a couple years.
So if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why would you choose that word?
I would choose the word kind, but I would hope that that my I don't want to like my grandfather would just have the little basically stone in the ground on there for their burial in their cemetery, and if I just had the little wee plaque on the ground, that's all I want, and it would just say kind person, because I think that kindness, and it's funny, we do our strategic vision, mission, values every year. One of the words that we added to our values that we added was kindness this
Good. That's
this
great.
year.
That's great. What's your favorite place in the world? You grew up in cottage country. Is that it?
It is. You're a proud Scotsman, Edinburgh, and it's something like, my brothers and I, before we, like a lot of kids, you pursue education, you have to leave. It used to be a logging and tourism town. All the lodges are gone. There's only, I think, one heritage lodge out of the 17 on our main body of water in Halliburton left. But before we even bought our first family homes, we bought just a shack together in the east side of Halliburton just to have access to water. So I need to be around water. It's, unfortunately, I chose maybe the most landlocked town to raise my family here in Ontario and Aurora. It's like, yeah. So I can't.
Okay. I've had to stay south, okay, beside the lake, beside the big lake, because I grew up beside the sea. So I can't. I need to be beside the lake and the escarpment. It's only a little teeny hill, but at least gives me a sense. I've always lived between the escarpment and Lake Ontario.
Yeah, it's there's just something about it. When I was a kid and we were growing up on rivers and lakes in the bush, there's no pursuit. I will be driving the same truck that I drive today 10 years from now. Home is about a family home. I bought this home in 2008 or 7. I'll be living in this home 20 years from now. It's there's nothing that I've ever wanted. I've never been a guy that pursues material possessions. I hate that stuff. I was happiest as a kid running barefoot along the riverside in Halliburton. And so my brothers and I, that's where we congregate as a family. So it's we don't even go to my parents' beautiful family home up there. We go to these little shacks around these lakes.
So I usually ask people this tropical island question, but I've decided today I'm going to ask, the COVID version of it. So I'm going to ask the COVID version of it.
Sure.
So you're isolated. You're on a small island. Let's say Eagle Lake or something like that. We drop you off there, no technology. You do have a phone, but it's only got one connection, and that's to us. And we can come and pick you up anytime you want. How long do you last?
Oh, my wife would say you wouldn't last a minute because my mouth doesn't stop going. I have this irritating habit of singing out loud and songs. Like I need to be around people, so it's I wouldn't last 20 minutes.
Yeah, me too. That's really good, Mark. Okay, well, that's about it for today. I really enjoyed it. It's a really real good interaction. Some good feedback for people that are looking for ideas and understanding. And in terms of the people that are doing that, how can they, if they have something that they really want to talk to you about, how can they get a hold of you?
I try to connect and return email and phone call to help as many young people that are pursuing these different initiatives or just interested and curious at all. So they can reach me at mark@foxquilt.com is the easiest way.
Yeah.
And I'm always open to help and listen to any of your audience members want to ask questions or.
Okay, Mark. Well, thanks very much for coming on the Canada's podcast. It's been a delight having you on the show.
Thanks so much, Philip. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by eBay Canada. eBay Canada is here to help. They've been supporting Canadian small business retailers for 25 years, and their up-and-running program is getting Canadian businesses online today. Visit ebay.ca/up-and-running. Stay local and sell global with eBay.